guys. Another week.
Yay. Week 3.
I
How is
know.
it week 3? It's January 2025.
I
I'm just
swear,
like,
the snow days really rushed January. I'm telling you that right now. For me,
yeah.
anyway, it rushed January.
Mhm.
Something fierce. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just like the editing, the day in and day out of the same routine is definitely like pushing January
Yeah.
so fast for me. So,
Yeah.
well, how I noticed that you finished the
Oh.
third one in the Crowns of Naxia and started Harry Potter. So,
Yep.
fill us in. What's going on with you?
So I finished Songbird and the Heart of Stone.
Yes, that's it. I get it mixed up with the Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah, I do too. I have to
For some
mentally in my
reason.
head when I start saying it, I have to like mentally tell myself it's
Right.
not Ballad of Songbird, it's the Songbird.
Yeah.
I have to in my head. I have to like
Okay.
mentally correct myself each time. But yeah,
Yeah.
I like honestly. I feel like Carissa does, and I didn't think to grab that book. Or else I would show you the cover again. But I love
I don't have mine
how
either. My copy with me.
I love how she's able. I don't know what you would call it. It's almost like a false foreshadowing, because she hints at certain things happening throughout the entire book, and she like makes you think that those things are going to happen, or at least something's going to happen similar to that. And she did this in the first couple, like the first two as well. Not so much in the second one, kind of maybe,
Yeah.
but it's like and then at the very last second, she will change the decision or change something, like a decision that a character will make at the last minute without any kind of hint at that happening, and it will throw it off, and she'll throw some other kind of situation or context, or throw something else into it, and it just completely changes the ending of it at the last minute. And she also threw in one of the characters, like a character from one of the previous books. I'm not going to tell you which one. That I was not, because if I tell you, then it's going to spoil the ending. So I can't tell you even hints at who I saw. I can't even do that.
Okay.
But I'm like, I was not expecting them to come into play at all.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like...
Nice.
And it's one of those things, it's where the book ends and you don't really know what to call it when it's in terms of the romance. Like, you don't know what to call it, because it's just like with book one, it was like
the first one.
Yeah, with the first one was like enemies to lovers, but with a twist. And it's like
enemies again. It was
enemies
to lovers and then enemies again.
Yeah, and
like,
in this one,
Yeah.
it's not so much like that, but it's like the ending of it. It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't even want to. I'm even afraid to say my thoughts on how I would describe the. There's
So is it a 5-star read?
Yeah, it was good. But then again, I read purely for enjoyment. I don't read books in a series to nitpick them out or to edit them or anything like that. Like, I just purely read because I want to. So like, but very rarely has there been a book that I've genuinely hated. I don't think I've ever read a book that I've genuinely hated.
The book?
No. Well, I've put it on hold. Like, the Silmarillion, and for those people that, the Lord of the Rings fans that understand the Silmarillion, it's like literally it's a Lord of the Rings history book. That one, I have to listen to the audiobook to help me comprehend what's going on. So that one's the one that's constantly on hold, or I will restart. I've restarted it like twice now. But that's really the only one that I haven't finished that I want to finish, but I don't think I've ever DNF'd a book.
That's interesting. I love our different perspectives on that, because like you being a reader who used to struggle a lot, like you mentioned before, it feels like your imagination's kind of been opened up, where you can you're just soaking in everything that you can read, and that's one thing that's really interesting. So I obviously have started earthquaking, so I will say, after reading Carissa Broadbent next to this, like, it's a very stark difference.
Yeah.
And one comparison that I wanted to make is, imagine reading Game of Thrones, right? Gritty, like really everybody knows what Game of Thrones is nefarious for, right? Like, you know, character deaths, gritty, realistic history with fantasy, but it's like a low fantasy setting, and
intense.
It's very
intense,
very gritty. That's similar. That's very basically it's Carissa Broadbent's writing. Just Game of Thrones is a little bit more extreme than Carissa. It's very violent, very graphic, very gritty, right?
I got that.
And then imagine going straight from reading Game of Thrones and trying to read Chronicles of Narnia. It is like night and day. And for me, it's like the subgenre difference. And for me, like, I am enjoying Earthquaking so much, and the writing is very, very good, and I'm enjoying it for what it is. It's just not my subgenre of fantasy, because it's very different, and my head is really into Carissa Broadbent right now, and other authors that are like similar to her, because I'm gritty fantasy. I didn't know that gritty fantasy really existed, and so to find and discover that, like, I've talked before, like, I didn't read for so many years. It's kind of like, it's similar to how you said that it kind of opens up your imagination. It's like a whole new world basically of reading, and I like, that's kind of like where my brain is gravitating. Cool. So for me, like, that's my biggest hurdle is the teenagers and the teenage decisions, and like it makes sense because they're teenagers, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to think of like Chronicles of Narnia stuff, but like how sometimes Edmund or Peter, like, they're little squabbling, and it's like, okay guys, come on. But I like the dynamics though, and they have, like, I did a short that talked about this, but like the Ella is like the Katara of the group. She's the motherly one that gets really bossy. Tad is the rebellious one who's really outspoken and rude, and I relate to and love Tad the most. Andrew is like the fat chubby kid who was like bullied in school, kind of like the nerd. And then Kendall is like the average teenage girl who like wants people to like her, and so I relate to her a lot because she's like, you know, teenage girl mindset. But it's like sometimes their decisions kind of like not really irritate me, but it's like, you know, they're teenagers, so they kind of like decide how teenagers would. Like,
you're looking at it from an adult perspective.
Yeah, essentially, like, I don't like, literally, I've never read Chronicles of Narnia for that reason, because it's written for a younger audience, and that's not, like, there are tons of people who read Chronicles of Narnia and others of that age range, adults who enjoy that kind of stuff, because that's their thing. It's just, I've never been one to do that, and I honestly, like, hate that about myself, because it means that I've never had a chance to, like, read Chronicles of Narnia. But it helps that for me, like, it's written by a really good friend, and I also, like, her writing style is like getting familiar to me and stuff, and so I appreciate all that. So like, I will probably never actually be able to read Chronicles of Narnia, so this is kind of like the next closest thing. So it is a little tough to get through in that sense, just because it's not, but I'm enjoying, like, sometimes like I love the random quirkiness to like the fantasy elements and like the random encounters. Like, there's this one forest that's like meant to be an optical illusion, and it like tricks you, and you can wander in it for like ever, basically. And the little illustration that she made at the front of it, I didn't know it was meant to be a forest. And so when I first saw the illustration, I was like, okay, that's like a knitted ball of yarn. And then I thought it was a beehive. And then upon closer inspection, it's a bunch of tree trunks. And it's like, that got that optical kind of conclave feel to it. And it's like, there's a weasel that doesn't really talk, but he's got this other guy that talks like for him. So it's like the beaver. And, you know, just some of that quirky little like fantasy adventure stuff, like these teenagers on an adventure to like stop the evil throne kind of thing. So, and they argue and fuss and fight a lot. Like, you know how in Avatar, Katara started getting really bossy, and her and Toph clashed a lot, and they hated her motherly instincts to like protect the group. But like, for her, she was like, okay, let's stay focused. Let's, you know, do the mission. And, you know, she had her own ideas of how to protect everybody. That's very much Ella right now, and Ella and Tad clash a lot. And then Tad and Kendall have this like really interesting relationship, and I like their friendship. I don't know if it's gonna bloom into like this teenage romance, but I'm romantic-y head right now, but they're really cute. And she's the only one that can kind of get through to Tad and stuff, so it's really cute. So that's pretty much it. I've also, at the same time, I'm getting to the heavier edits of Survivor right now, so I don't have much time to read. And the time that I do have, I want to just watch on YouTube and just mind numb and not have to think so much. And so for me, I've hit that part. Like, the beginning part was easy to jump into and then read a lot in the evening, but I'm basically writing the equivalent of a novel on top of the editing I have to do for it. So I've written 18,000 words in addition to like editing 50,000 words on it already. So it's just like heavy editing. I'm having fun with it, but it's just really heavy. That's pretty much my update.
Okay.
I'm also really wanting Onyx Storm, so my brain is in fourth. Like, I am obsessed with the idea of Onyx Storm right now.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads into our topic for today.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's getting closer.
Okay.
Even the guy I like to watch, Steven, he's been posting a lot about it too, and I'm like, stop it.
So excited. Okay, so a couple different theories. One's a theory and one's more of like a prediction type of thing. One video I saw, and if people in the comments actually genuinely want the video for however long we have, because some of them are on TikTok, but because that's a whole other ordeal. So it said that they thought that it could be maybe Violet still had the manipulating time power from when she was attacked, because apparently when the Battle of Bethgate, thank you.
Pronounce it.
When they had that battle, there were several times where she was counting the seconds, like 1, this happened, 2, this happened. Or it was in a heartbeat, this happens. And so it was like, and I guess, and she said she was counting again. So I'm assuming earlier in the series, there's moments where she's counting. Earlier in the book, there's moments where she's counting. And so I didn't really think about that. Right. But that was something that I thought was interesting, that I'm like, I wouldn't hate that. If she somehow managed, because she's always a really unique, different character anyway. Like, and nobody has ever, like, bonded with a dragon that young, so they don't really truly know how Andarna and her are going to react, and how that whole power thing works, because Andarna, like, knew that if she allowed Violet to use that she was going to end up losing her power, and she was going to losing the power anyway. Like, there was always a whole discussion of that she was going to lose the power and not have it anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but it's so new that nobody's ever bonded with a dragon that young.
Well, and I could easily see, like, when you bond with a young dragon, like, their magic leaves an imprint on you or something like that. Like, there's a lot of different explanations that could be had that would make sense.
And Rebecca,
I liked the power. Like,
me too.
It was really fun and helpful. But I also liked how, and I've also loved all of this about Fourth Wing, how it doesn't just come easily to her. Like, even when she gets her power, she misses, like, the lightning strikes and all that, and it's just like, she has to train and work for it. And Rebecca Yarros, and it was like
she had so many limitations that I was almost getting irritated at how much she was missing with her lightning strikes, and I'm like, surely it's not that hard, just strike a thing. And it's like I honestly appreciate that. I like that, and the fact that her and Xaden's relationship isn't perfect from the get-go is also evidence that Rebecca writes flaws into her characters. But she also, Rebecca also said that Violet's second signet was mentioned in Iron Flame. But nobody has picked up, nobody can agree on what it is. Some people think it's talking with people that have passed, with Liam. Yeah, I think so too. Well, and I saw, and that reminds me, I saw another video that made a comment that they thought that it wasn't just like some kind of hallucination with Liam. Spoiler alert. But I think most people that know what we're talking about have understood what happens at this point.
I've understood we're spoiling the series.
when she was being interrogated, and you had the whole Dane was there and that whole situation, and she was seeing Liam, or like an apparition of Liam. Some people were arguing that, what was the main god, the death god? I forget his name, but some people, there was one kind of theory that said that Liam was allowed to be there because the god told Liam that she was getting ready, she was close to death, and so the god allowed Liam to be there because she was there for Liam when he died, and he didn't want her to die alone, so he came to be with her. And I'm like, it makes it even more angsty, man. I'm like, oh my god. Oh, I spilled my tea.
I actually like that more than
I know, I do too. I do too. But anyway.
You were done dirty, buddy.
Why do we have to bring Jack Barlow back but we can't bring Liam back. I need to know this. Why is this a thing? No. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm still salty about this.
Than good side character.
But then
antagonists are more important than good side characters.
I can rant a little bit, but I'm not going to bully Rebecca Yarros into changing things because it's her lore, it's her series. She can do what she wants with it.
We can laugh and rant about it.
Rebecca, I will love you regardless of what happens in Onyx Storm. I may or may not be disappointed by certain things. I may or may not be disappointed, but I will love you regardless.
It's one of those things where when we read Onyx Storm, we'll flash back to this clip.
Yeah, and it's like 3 weeks later.
3 weeks later.
Like the whole SpongeBob narrator moment, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, do we want to go back and forth, or how we want to do this again?
We can go back and forth. I have another Onyx Storm kind of thing.
Okay.
So, I haven't read this article, so hopefully it actually has something interesting to talk about. But it says only one character is guaranteed to survive the Empyrean series, but their Onyx Storm story is still worrying. I don't know what this means.
I have an idea of who you're talking about.
Okay. Rebecca Yarros posting hints about what to expect on our Instagram audience. Know for certain that several beloved characters will not make it through this installment, as the first 2 books did not hold back. Death of characters like Liam and, spoilers, General Lilith Sorngale ensure that many Fourth Wing characters will die in Onyx Storm. With the infiltration of the Venin into Basgiath and the failing Atration wards, death will likely follow Violet and her friends as she races to find a cure for Xaden and a way to stop the Venin permanently. One character is set to be safe. And even later books do a particular detail from Fourth Wing's very first page, Jasminia. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but the death check.
Yeah. I've heard this, I think.
Fourth Wing confirmed that she will survive. I have never heard this. That's crazy. She is a scribe and not a writer, which will keep her out of the fighting of the series. She was set up to survive the first page. How did that... Okay. She's translating... Oh, Jasnina is translating Violet's story as the curator of the scribe... Wow, my speech impediment's getting... Thank you. Revealing that she does end up surviving the events. Her translations of this information also showcase that she could have had a hand in restructuring the scribe quadrant.
Yeah, I got you. You're good.
Child, and I still have pieces of it. Which had been part of the censorship efforts that Basgiath employed regarding the Venin. Her story in Onyx Storm is set to be a tumultuous one as she attempts to aid Violet and her friends. She'll be safe. Okay, you're just repeating the same information. The Venin have infiltrated the scribe quadrant, which puts her in danger as she and the other scribes are unable to tell friend from foe. It will likely be painful as she watches her friends risk their lives, making her into a bit more bittersweet. Her romance with Sawyer is also set to feature some hardship, as Sawyer's injury from Iron Flame could prove to be too physically and emotionally overwhelming for him, causing her pain by proxy. In a similar vein, any new losses and injuries of Violet and the Iron Squad will also harm her emotionally as she's grown close to them. So that's pretty much
the main thing I had heard
about her and Sawyer. I really liked her.
I did too. Like, in the very beginning of Fourth Wing, it even mentions that she's, that she scribes it. Or there's different points, like, at the beginning. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look. Like, at the beginning of the chapters, or there's some that, like, at the very beginning of Fourth Wing, I think it's, like, the little message at the beginning or something like that. It had mentions that she's scribing that, and that, it's like, and it kind of hints at the fact that there's people that die, and there's some people that theorize that everyone could die. So there's like that whole thing because of how she words that at the beginning of Fourth Wing. It kind of hit.
I'm gonna have to find that and actually read it. And come up with myself.
Okay, so I know you're not a huge listener of Taylor Swift, but I'm gonna read you. Apparently, throughout the writing of Onyx Storm, Rebecca has said. And did like writing vibes, and she'll post songs about like that she's listening to while she's writing Onyx Storm. Well, one that's kind of a side note, but one of a TikTok a video that I saw of her somebody interviewing her, they said, "Can you pick a Taylor Swift song for each of the characters?" And I saw a video.
Oh God.
I saw a video. The first character was Dane, and right off the bat, she said the song called "The Prophecy" by Taylor Swift. I'm going to read you the first verse and the chorus, and then I want to get your thoughts. Now, granted, the song's POV is from a female's perspective, so when it says a girl and those kind of things, woman, you have to understand Taylor Swift's female, so you get the idea. But apparently it's Dane's. Apparently it's a song that represents Dane. Okay, hand on the throttle. Thought I caught lightning in the bottle, but it's gone again. And it was written. I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Was it punishment? Pat around when I get home. I guess a lesser woman would have lost hope. A greater woman wouldn't beg, but I look at the sky and said, "Please, I'm begging on my knees. Change the prophecy. Don't want money, just want someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy?" So with me reading that, some people were thinking, could it be his redemption? He gets a redemption arc, or he gets killed. And my thought is, is he talking about, because it almost seems like he's mourning somebody, like they're mourning a death. And my thing is, does somebody close to Dane, aka Violet, does something happen to her that would trigger this, change the prophecy? I don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy?
Oh, there's so many different ways.
Oh my god, I know. I'm like, oh my god, because it even says, what tells me that she could be picking it because it may be referencing Violet is because it mentions lightning earlier.
Lightning in a bottle. Yeah, the lightning in a bottle. That's immediately where my brain went.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
It definitely, to me, gave me the vibe that he's going to lose her. My brain went, like, maybe with the romance and stuff. But he could have
it could be her going bad.
Could be, like, a death.
Maybe she goes with the venom. I could see that being a thing, too.
Or maybe she starts making sacrifices to save Xaden, and Dane is the guy, like, Violet, don't do that, and she keeps doing it for Xaden, and, like, he loses her that way. But not only because of what she's doing to save him, but also that she's doing it for a guy that's not Dane, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, so you got your next one.
Okay, I was waiting for the rest of the songs and all the other characters and all the other lyrics.
No, there were several. I can pull them up, but well, I'd have to find the video, but you know.
You're fine. Okay. We'll have to talk about it later.
Yeah, we can talk about it later. Oh wait, we'll do a listening chat.
Yeah. All right, so it says print book sales saw a small sales increase in 2024, and I wanted to bring this up because it's just a fascinating topic to me, because a couple years ago it was like kind of a thing where people were speculating whether print books are going to die off because of ebooks and then the slow rise of audiobooks. And like it was like you can't really sell a paperback anymore, let alone a hardback. But with the fact that there's a lot more being sold, it's like we've been talking a lot about the special editions and how those are like the mainstream, like you walk through a store and you find them everywhere, where they used to be like a rare thing for like a book release. And I'm wondering if that's correlating, if that kind of helped bring back the concept of buying physical books again, because you have this beautiful book to put on your shelf now.
It's true.
And it's kind of like a good thing, but then now you have where it's becoming such a big deal that like you have all these corporations like trying to compete for the best special edition, and then it creates competition and like anxiety around getting a copy and stuff, like we've talked about with Onyx Storm and Target versus Amazon and all that stuff. So it was just an interesting thing, because a couple years ago I was for sure thinking that it'd be impossible to like sell physical copies and stuff. So it was like one of those things where I was like, oh wow, that actually may not be the case too much anymore, but we'll see kind of as the years go by. So
okay, so speaking of like special edition type stuff, you know how with ACOTAR, with Sarah J Maas, everyone's been anticipating the next book in the ACOTAR series, right? Well, she made some kind of video saying that like overemphasizing spring, and she in January, I think it's been a few days, she announced Night Court, like special Barnes and Noble editions of the books called the Night Court editions, Essentially, they're all black and silver, but literally, Barnes & Noble had a special edition of Silver Flame already. The covers aren't new. She's just taking this concept. They're just taking this concept and applying it to all of them and making the paper black. The sprayed edges black. Mm-hmm. And then there's a symbol on the back where it's blank.
And I got excited at first. And then I noticed that the cover images are the same, which I never really did like. I don't like the covers.
It's supposed to be, really. It's supposed to be like Night Court edition, but again, it's nothing. It's not new. Like literally, the only thing is new is that they have an emblem on the back that says Night Court or something like that, and the edges are black. From the way it sounds, there's not really much extra content in it. I don't know. And a lot of people were upset because they look pretty average when they were expecting like an anniversary. It's like for like the 10th was it 10th anniversary or something like that. It was like for some kind of anniversary. Much better. Yeah, it was like some kind of anniversary edition that was specifically for Barnes & Noble. Let me look and see. It's like the exclusive Night Court edition is what they're called, but I don't remember what. I thought it was for a special anniversary of the books. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people were just kind of court announcement. Let me see what she put in her announcement. Right. It says the Night Court editions of A Court of Thorn and Roses are scheduled for release on April 29th of this year, exclusively at Barnes & Noble. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a TikTok video. Special edition release, I guess. I don't know if I thought it was maybe for like an anniversary type thing. I'm not 100% sure, but people were saying that they would much rather have had like a release date announcement, a cover reveal, or something for ACOTAR 6 instead of the new covers. And a lot of people are saying that they're not even going to bother buying it. And
I'm not.
But then again,
it's pretty much the same thing, just black.
But then it's like people are overhyped about two different versions of Onyx Storm. Like as the second, like the special edition.
To me, the cover's pretty, and you have better sprayed edges. You have the
that
art,
is very
the
fair though.
Or,
yeah,
you know,
like it's the cover is slightly different. The cover is slightly different. It's not a solid color on the sprayed edges. Like neither of the editions have the solid color. Like there's like the dragons and the twirl, but there's like how many dragons you want. There's the bookmark. There's the gold writing instead of the white. So there's like different variations of that. So like the pre-order version has several dragons down the side and has the white writing on the front, whereas the other has like the bookmark. So it's like in the less dragons and the gold.
To me, in my opinion, the covers of Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm look better than the ACOTAR series covers. Yeah, so to me, the ACOTAR series covers are not worth doing if the covers themselves are not being different.
And that was something else. I guess when they first released these redid the covers, a lot of people weren't happy about these the neon colors. A lot of people didn't like the neon colors, and so I don't know if this is her way of kind of like solving that problem by having like a solid black.
As famous as she is, I don't like the images either. I don't think
that's fair.
It's not very good. Like the Throne of Glass series, like I like the original ones, but like even the new versions of the Throne of Glass series are still better than ACOTAR.
Which and like this one is this one's kind of like a mask, and you have the whole mask thing that Nesta puts on. So I get that, but it's like I never even really thought to compare to see if the images on the front even associated with the books or not. I didn't even think to look at that.
They kind of do, but to me, I still just don't like the way that they look as a whole.
Yeah,
like there are different styles of art you could have done or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, with the whole Onyx Storm special edition, like I feel like maybe Sarah J. Maas wanted to try to do something on her end.
Yeah.
So it's like a competition thing.
Yeah. That or it could just be she managed to announce her special editions after, and it's just a matter of timing, I guess, but.
Yeah. And like you said, it could be just if you don't like the neon editions, then you can get black now, and that would be fine.
Yeah.
You know, and black looks better as a whole. It's just, for me, I already have the books. I don't really need, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now, if they were like,
but
special covers that have extra stuff on them, or a different design completely, then like, or maybe like they all, or like with this particular set of covers, if you set them all up side by side, it makes one giant picture. Like, if you had something like that, which these aren't in print anymore, that's why I had to go to eBay to find them. Because I started buying them when they were in print, and then they stopped printing them, because I guess I don't know if they were like a limited thing or not, but yeah, if you set them all up side by side, they make one giant picture. So it's like, something like that would have been perfect, and people would have ate it up. Like, you know what I'm saying? People would have. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
But
even I would have, and I'm not one to buy multiple copies
of
a book.
I would have too. Yeah.
Except for myself, my own proof copies sometimes, but you know, I have like a gazillion of my own laying around the house. Yeah. So my next thing was before I switched to the cup. Okay, so I like posting on Facebook and asking questions and all that stuff, and so I shared a book promo that was like Christian fiction books. And I like to keep it conversational, so I asked people something about how, like, my TBR list just keeps growing, but these books look so good. How do you guys, like, I haven't had a lot of time to read lately. How do you guys manage it? And so I got a couple, like, one comment that I wanted to highlight, because she actually had a really good system for how she handles her TBR list. And it's kind of relevant because I've had less time to read now because I'm editing so much. But she says, and I'm not going to name names, but she says, I add books that I want to a TBR list I create on Amazon. And then when I'm ready for a new book, I start at the bottom of my TBR list and work my way up. So, like, she buys the books, the oldest books.
She buys them as she's ready to read them. Yeah.
Yeah, that way, I'm not just reading the most recently added stuff with books at the bottom that she never gets to. And she's like, it works for me. I do the same thing on my Kindle. I read the older books I've purchased and make my way up to the nearest most recently purchased. As for finding time, I don't stress about reading so many books a week, a month, a year. I read what I can while juggling life, and I call it good.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
I thought that was kind of like that'd be a fun little challenge sometime, is like, okay, you know, reading some of my oldest TBR.
This one, that'd be a fun or there's like one other one. Ember in the Ashes might be one of my older ones. There's a book called Caravel that I bought it when it first came out, before all the that was one of them that I had bought. I think it was a new release when I bought it, but I just have never read it. And these, I started the series like 2 or 3 years ago, and I just never finished the series. So
I was scrolling through my Kindle the other day, and I realized, oh my gosh, I have so many books that look so good that I've just purchased or gotten on my Kindle.
The
and
Stuff
I
Your
have
Kindle
like
days. I get so many on the Stuff Your Kindle days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good to take advantage of. Okay, so Audible. Couple audiobook things I've got. So the first one, Audible has been making comments lately a couple different times. A couple different situations where they made a comment about people who listen to audiobooks at higher than just 1x speed, which is the speed that the narrator records it at. Yeah. So the first time they made a commercial where celebrities were talking about their reading, their reading speed, and different things. And one person made a comment that people who listen to their audiobooks past 1x speed were psychopaths or something like that. And then and that didn't saddle well with people at all. Because I would argue that probably like 90, like honestly, like 90, like I would argue probably close to 90% of the people that use Audible change the audio speed even just a little bit.
I did for parts of the freaking narrator for Court of Silver Flames. There were times that she was reading very slowly for dramatic effect and dramatic pauses, and I went to 1.5 speed to get through some of the longer bits.
Yeah. Well, see, and there's times where, like, if the narrator is reading slower already, my brain will move from a sentence faster. If my eyes and brain move faster than what the narrator's reading with, because I always listen, when I listen to audiobooks, unless I'm cooking or doing dishes, I'm always following along with the book. And if I am moving faster without the audiobook, then I pump up the speed. It just depends on the narrator. But then, get this.
It really does.
2 or 3 days later, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 days or if it was like a week or so, sometime later, They posted made a post on Threads, which is like the companion to Instagram if people didn't know. It's not picture. You can post pictures in there, but it's mainly just like a Twitter type thing version of Instagram. It's like posts rather than that. It's like the only way I can describe it, without all the drama that comes with Twitter. But or X. Sorry. Sorry, they just don't change the name. It's been Twitter forever. I don't know why you changed it. Anyway, they made a post on Threads that were like things that are in and out in 2025, and it literally was them typing a list in like the Apple Notes app, and it was like a picture of this little chart, and it said, in 2025 and out in 2025. And they made a comment that the very first thing that they list for in and out was that listening to audiobooks at 1x speed was in, and listening to it any higher, and it was like 1x speed so you can appreciate the details. And then literally it said out in 2025, listening at higher, like more than 1x speed. And it's like,
what is their deal with that?
And it's like a lot of people were speculating, like this one person was thinking that maybe they are like changing how they work their app or subscriptions. My main concern, I'm worried that they're either going to make the subscriptions by hour, like per hour, like not per hour, but like your subscription that you buy determines the number of hours you could listen.
Like Spotify, and they don't want you rushing through it.
Yes. Or I could also, this also makes me think that they're going to put ads based on the number of hours that you listen to. So after so many hours, you get an ad. And you have to have a separate subscription to get rid of the ads. That's my worry. That's what I think is happening, that they're going to put ads in Spotify. Not Spotify, but Audible.
Yeah.
No one has confirmed or denied that. I've maybe seen like one or two people mention that similar topic of them maybe putting ads. There's no evidence to say that they're actually doing that. That's just my fear of what, like, I don't want ads in my audiobooks. And I could totally see them doing that because every subscription service has ads now. And I could just see it being a thing.
I don't like that idea. I don't know why else that would be like the hill they're gonna die on. Like, you know what I mean? The big topic they're choosing to talk about. I honestly have my own issues with Audible, their self-publishing platform, ACX, and like they irritate me enough that it doesn't take much for like Audible to do something controversial that I'm already irritated at them enough. So because of how they treat indie authors and stuff.
And a lot of people are like, there's a couple different apps that you can download that are associated with your library that you can listen to audiobooks from your library. And I've genuinely tried that, but there are things like it doesn't have all of the audiobooks that I'm wanting to listen to. So, for example, when I was doing A Court of Thorn and Roses, my first thought was, like, my local library has an app, and I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. It's called Hoopla. So it's essentially you can borrow books. You can borrow your like books from your like library, and it's like you can actually get them and borrow them for a amount of time and then return them. But it's like you have audiobooks, comics, ebooks, you can do movies, music, television, like there's all kinds of stuff you can borrow from there, and it's great. But the issue is that for some reason I couldn't find Throne of Glass. Mm-hmm. And that was what I was wanting to listen to.
Spotify. So Throne of Glass is one of those. I think it's the Throne of Glass people. They only have it on Audible because I looked for it on Spotify and I looked for it elsewhere. It's only on Audible, from what I understand. When I was looking.
Yeah, and so this one is like, and this is where it's like that's like great in theory, but then what if my library doesn't have? What if it doesn't have them on there? And then what? And then so it's I'm kind of forced to go to Audible or unless there's another place to get audiobooks, but then I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to listen to audio.
Spotify's a close second, but even they
limit the number of hours that you can listen to for the month, and that's what bothers me more than anything. Is like after 15 hours, I'm like, excuse me.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't speed it up in Spotify.
Yeah. That's funny.
Okay.
So this is actually not a topic I plan to discuss, but it is something that I'm technically reading, so I did need to mention it since we're on the topic of audiobooks. So I already announced that I'm doing the PewDiePie's reading challenge for the year. I did Tao Te Ching for January, but I read it in December.
Yeah.
So I'm starting February's read early because it's in the Buddha's words. And so on Saturdays when I'm doing my newsletters, you know how tedious that is for me. So I usually listen to music or something to keep my brain occupied because it's very, very tedious. And I've been listening in the Buddha's words while I'm working. I'm probably going to have to listen to it more than just because I don't think I have enough time, even with while I'm working. Like, I'm not going to, it's an 18-hour audiobook. I'm not going to get it done.
Yeah.
So I wanted, since it is a book I'm reading or listening to, I am doing it. So I took some notes on, because I'm getting into some of the like actual philosophy behind Buddhism and everything, but the majority of it, like the last several weeks, have just been this massive like 30-minute introduction about what the book is going to be about. I'm not even kidding you. And it's like, you know, we translated it this way because of this, and this was translated that way, and this is the history, and the Buddha did this, and the, you know, the people after this, and oh my god, it was like the
Christopher
most thing to listen to.
Christopher Tolkien does like little sections in these where he makes commentary in between, where he puts snippets of J.R. Tolkien's writings. So like I could get that, but that's like compared to like Lord of the Rings, that's compared to like Buddha. Like, no offense. So yeah, I get it. Yeah. No offense.
But so far, chapter 1, like they're divided by dhammas or something, which in the audiobook it says verses. So it's like chapter 1, verse 1, and so on and so forth. So the first, I'm on verse 2 or 3, but like the first one is kind of focused on how the mindset of like everybody is usually bothered by the fact that we age and eventually die, and so his philosophy is suggesting that you come to terms with that and accept that so you can live a better life and a life of more like righteousness, equivalent, like basically righteousness, and live a good life and not focus so much on like death and aging and stuff. So it's not anything that like goes against like necessarily what like I believe, but it's just like I don't like listening to it, but I really wanted to do PewDiePie's reading challenge, so I'm like stubbornly determined to like do it.
I'm proud of you.
The audiobook. If I had to read this thing, I would be pulling my hair out. So the audiobook is literally saving me on that. Yeah. So thank goodness for that. And I've been tempted to turn up the speed, but I'm like, I have to comprehend what's going on, and I don't know if I could do that on 1.5. But so, because it's really heavy philosophy stuff, and I'm like, this is kind of above my head anyway. But so yeah, that was my little interjection I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so my last thing is graphic audios have becoming more and more popular. Akatar has them. Fourth Wing series, like the Empyrean series, Fourth Wing Iron Flame. And apparently Onyx Storm, you can pre-order the dramatic audio apparently now. So it's like, you know, it's been announced that they're making a graphic audio. So like it's becoming popular. Throne of Glass is getting graphic audios sometime this year or late this year, early next year. So it's like they're becoming very popular. And something that you have mentioned that I even noticed right off the bat that I didn't even get fully through a chapter of the graphic audio when I realized this, because when I was first reading through the green one, I forget the name.
Wings and Ruin?
No, Rings and Ruin is pink.
Oh, no.
Mist and Fury.
Mist and Fury.
Got it. I was reading through Mist and Fury for the first time, and at one point I noticed that they were skipping, like, where it said, like, essentially, like, descriptive stuff, like, where they were going. It wasn't, like, they took the dialogue bits out. They would use the dialogue, and then they would take, like, the descriptions or, you know, Rain said, like, walking over here. Audio. Yeah. And so... I saw a video of a girl that was kind of, wasn't really ranting. It's just, she was like giving like a PSA type of thing. Of that. Apparently, the graphic audio for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, apparently at times it skips full paragraphs of stuff.
Yeah, like Silver Flame didn't skip as much as Fourth Wing did.
And apparently, there is one section in Iron Flame where I had to look up what chapter it was in. Apparently it's in 55. That completely skips I'm assuming what they said was almost like over a page, because I haven't actually listened to the audio, but it was like a conversation between Xaden and Violet where she uses the analogy about battle axes in an armor. She said, how am I supposed to fully trust you when battle axes are flying out of the armor left and right? And he's like, I don't understand. And it's that whole conversation where she's like, how can I like, if an axe comes flying out of the armory, I'm going to go in to see what's going on to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so it's like that whole discussion that they have. Apparently, that whole thing is just taken out of the graphic audio. Apparently. Why? I don't know. And that was my question, like, just to you or just in general for like discussion, is how do they decide what's important enough to be included in a graphic audio?
Well, based on Court of Silver Flames, because I followed along with the whole thing and I kept up with it and listened to the whole thing, and I loved the graphic audio. They skipped anything that was audible. They skipped anything that they included sound effects and things like that you can listen to. So anything that was like audibly already there, they skipped it because it's unnecessary, repetitive information. Because like, oh, you know, she goes, like, he said, she said. We don't need the dialogue tags because the person is narrating
I get
dialogue.
And then
if they clear their throat, the actor is actually clearing their throat, so you don't need to say they cleared their throat.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, or if there's footsteps or like, sometimes they would actually do some of those descriptors, but sometimes they would be skipped again if there's like a sound, like she closed the door and you hear the door shut in the audiobook, you don't need that either. So to me, that's what for that particular one, that seemed to be the deciding factor of what to include and what not to include. As for why there's a whole chunk missing, because in Court of Silver Flames, they didn't skip whole paragraphs. It was literally just
and that was my thing, is like, but then because I haven't listened to Fourth Wing or Iron Flame's graphic audio at all.
I tried. Thought I tried Fourth Wing, but I didn't stick with it very long. No, I don't know. There was one other book that I tried that I didn't stick with it.
Yeah, and I just haven't heard.
I don't
know. Graphic audio
maybe
missing.
Maybe to save on time.
Yeah, it says I'm listening to.
The only other thing I can think of. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so a Reddit post makes a comment. I'm listening to Iron Flame from part 1 from graphic audio and noticed that a section is missing. I've noticed a few other moments that seem weird, but this one is the first where I've compared to the book. This is on page 204 of Iron Flame, about 7.05 into part 1. My version is borrowed from my library. So it was like description of the like people talking is what she has highlighted, and it was like the part where it's like full on dialogue.
That's weird.
And it has like people talking.
So the only other idea I had is that when you create audiobooks, the amount of money you charge the narrator is based on the finished hour. So if it's a 26-hour long audiobook, then they're gonna, like, if say they're $200 per hour per finished hour, so it's $200 times the finished audio. So it's like 26 hours long, $200 per hour, so that'd be 200 times 26, and that would be what you pay for the outright audiobook. So the only other thing I can think of is that they trimmed certain pieces that didn't seem as viable to the story, to trim it down so it wasn't as long. But it's like, she's famous and has all kinds of money, so to me that's not really that doesn't seem like that would be the case either. But those are the only two options I can think of for why they would do that.
I just don't know if it's like, and that's apparently that's like a common theme for Fourth Wing. It was like, I heard they were saying like paragraphs, and apparently like in Iron Flame there was like that whole conversation was like, they said it was like over a page was skipped. And somebody was like, I thought I was just going insane. Like, I thought it was just me going insane and not being able to follow along. And some people were like, well, it's not meant for people as their first read. And I'm like, but that's how, I'm like, so that's one, somebody in the comments made the comment that it's not supposed to be for people's first read through. But it's like, then why is it marketed that way?
Get as close to a movie as you can of the entire book.
But it's not marketed to be like, it's not marketed that way. You know, it's marketed as a more descriptive, more like a multiple reader, like multiple narrator actors of You know, it's marketed more of like as the book.
Audiobook. Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee you that there's people that will just listen to the audiobook, and I've even seen clips of it, like of people sitting in their car listening to the graphic audio. Fourth Wing, there's this one guy that was like freaking out at with Jack Barlow and stuff like that, and was like freaking out, and he was sitting in his car just listening to it. And there's tons of people that are like listening to these graphic audios for the first time, and like being exposed to that whole world, and then it has whole chunks missing. So it's like, and so that's where this girl was like, I just wanted to give you a PSA for those of you that are reading it, listening to it for the first time, and are using the graphic audio, that it does have chunks missing. And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like graphic audios. I think they're really cool, but yeah.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they would have a label, but then it's like people would be more inclined to do the audiobook, the regular audiobooks, and then who would buy?
They want the graphic audiobooks to be successful.
Of sales. Yeah.
They want it to be successful, so they're not going to say stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
So another article that I had was like Book Talk kind of changed publishing. So like with the banning of TikTok, like how is that going to affect the publishing industry as a whole and stuff?
Yeah.
So it's like made new authors rise and new series rise, but it's also made like older like series that previously existed like got Book Talk famous and kind of like we talked about, you know, Red Queen and some of those that are like a little older kind of got famous, if you will. So like backlist sales is what it's called, like when your backlist is, you know, making sales. So like Pauline Hoover, Sarah J. Maas, they're increased like 693% from 2020 to 2021 because of it. And then Sarah J. Maas anchored a 75% year-over-year revenue increase in 2024, according to Publishers Weekly. TikTok's algorithm became like a silver bullet for many independent and self-published authors and stuff. So I'm trying to find it really I don't know what they're really saying the effect is going to be, but it's just going to be interesting to see in the future how that's going to affect not just Book Talk, but everything as a whole. Yeah. Because a lot of people like have their careers on TikTok where they like they're TikTok famous, and so they make a lot of sales on that, or like they sell on their TikTok shop and stuff like that. So they're gonna have to find new, because just because they're on TikTok doesn't mean they're necessarily famous on like YouTube or Instagram. So they're gonna have to find new avenues of you know selling. So the only other one I had was historical fantasy books to escape reality. So like historical fantasy is an interesting subgenre because I love history, but my primary genre that I love to write and read is fantasy, and so it allows you to be realistic and true to history, but like with the aspects of fantasy that I like. And so I didn't know how big the genre was, and I didn't know how many historical fantasy books actually do exist. So it was kind of an interesting thing to think about. It was like Lone Women, The Volcano Daughters, Black Shield Maiden, The Djinn Waits on 100 Years, Queen Bee. None of these really look overly interesting. The Mermaid of Black Conch, The Scent of Burnt Flowers, Nocturne, Naked, Smoke. So just different things like that. But it was just some of them looked like they could be interesting. Like I didn't know if they were or not. So that was the other thing that I had to mention. I'm running out of water.
I've kind of run out of talking points, to be honest. But
there's one last thing I wanted to ask you was, what are you thinking of the Harry Potter book that you're reading so far? I don't know if you actually mentioned it. Because we talked about Chris at Broadbent.
Yeah, I like it. Like I think it's kind of interesting because, like I was kind of worried about, I wasn't not too much like the whole concept of it being like written for like with kids in mind, but I think it's like and it's very well known that the series gets very dark and very intense as you go along. So it's like I haven't really noticed a major issue with that. But I had a thought and then it's gone. But and there are certain major plot points that happen that I have a basic idea of. Like, I know what happens at the end of this. I know what happens just because you can't avoid, like, there was no possible way of me avoiding spoilers for Harry Potter because of the fact that it's Harry Potter and the fan base is ginormous. So I have a basic idea of certain things happening, but I'm just kind of appreciating just getting the dialogue, the descriptions, like the scenes, and just reading it for myself and not hearing it from somebody else. So I'm enjoying it. Like, and there's certain things that are like that I thought were kind of sad that I was honestly curious if I would have thought would be sad. I goes honestly because there's one point where I'm like, oh, that's kind of genuinely kind of dark. Like, there's like they're at like a.
Which one is this one, by the way? Like,
Goblet of Fire.
I've seen all the movies.
Yeah, so it's like the part. Okay, so it's like the part when the Death Eaters attack at the Quidditch World Cup, and there's like one description where Harry recognizes the campsite. There's a campsite manager that showed them where they paid for their tent and stuff, and that there was like 3 other people that looked to be his wife and children, and these dark wizards were flipping her upside down, and her dress would fall down, revealing her underwear, and she was like trying to panicking and trying to get her dress down, and they were just laughing. And that it also had a description of this kid, the child was being quote who had begun to spin like a top 60 feet above the ground, his head flopping limply from side to side. And I'm like, that's kind of intense, man. And so I'm like, okay, that's like intense. And it's like those kind of things. Like, I knew they were going to attack. I knew, the gist of what's going to happen. Like, I know about the tournament that's going to happen later in the book. I know what happens at the end of the tournament. I know the basic details, but I've never actually just went through and read them word for word, read the story. So I'm appreciating it. It's very different. Like, I'm not like on the edge of my seat for spoilers for like plot twists and stuff, because I already know. I know which characters died. Let's be honest. Not all of them. I don't know a lot of details and descriptions about the later books, because I know there's a lot that happens later on that I wanted to genuinely know as I read them. So there are certain things. I need to watch the movie sometime. Yeah, so there are certain things there a lot of like the last couple books I don't know a whole lot about at all. I have a basic idea of what.
Those will probably be fun for you to read, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, and that's where a lot of people said that the further along you get in the movies, the more away from the books that they get. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I'd be curious to read the books. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to read the book, and then after I finish reading the book, I'll watch the movie. That's what I think I'm going to do.
It'd be nice for me to rewatch the movies and compare as you go through, because honestly, I did one watch through the whole series, and they all blurred together, and so I don't remember a lot of details. But it was one of those things, I never watched it when I was younger, so
I'm slowly buying
it as an adult for the first time.
Yeah, like I'm slowly buying the DVDs at thrift stores when I see them.
Yeah, I don't know which one
I'm slowly buying them up, but so
yeah.
But
yeah, it's one of those series like Chronicles of Narnia that I never read as an adult, because I don't read about kids and teens and stuff, and that's kind of why like the struggle for this is, because that is the center focus, and I would say it is kind of written for younger audience, and that's not kind of like my thing, but I do kind of appreciate it for what it is and stuff. So I just have to look past the teenage decision making sometimes. I'm like, Rain would have already killed these
I think
guys
if you
already.
like if you
know what I mean, like,
well, and I think if you go in with the perspective of like, I have to do this when I try new foods, because like if I try to make, for example, like at Starbucks, I buy the brown sugar oat milkshake and espresso, and it's like one of my favorite drinks right now. And I figured out, I followed a recipe at home on how to make it at home. And before I tried it, I was like, I had to tell myself this is not, there's a very strong chance that this will not taste exactly like the Starbucks coffee does. So it will not taste the same. It's going to taste slightly different, and you need to acknowledge that before I take a drink. And so it's like, it could, and then then I took a drink and it tasted just like the Starbucks drink, and I was so happy. but you know, but it's like, well, I mean, I followed the recipe. Like, there was a girl that was making it at Starbucks, and I just followed the video and tried to do it as close as possible. And I even got the espresso, the same espresso coffee that they use in the drink, and I'm like, got it. Anyway, but like, if you just tell yourself, like, these are teenagers, they're going to make teenager decisions, and if you if you like, before you like read it, you have like, okay, they're gonna make silly decisions. They're teenagers. And that, like, if you go in with that mindset of like they're kids and they're gonna make kid type decisions, I think that maybe it might help. I don't know. Excuse me.
Yeah. So
I got hiccups.
I had a thought, but I forgot what I was gonna say. It happens a lot. Oh. But yeah, it's one of those things. It is kind of interesting to like kind of read something outside of my zone and stuff. It's like, it's one of those things I'd be interested to see you reading, like a rom-com or like a modern day romance.
I've read there's a book of the month book that I've read that was like I don't know if it was rom-com. I think it was more of like, let me find
I kind of want to try rom-com sometime too, but
it was like a book of the month one that I got when I had that subscription. But it let me go to my books. I'll know the name of it as soon as I see it. I just have to find it first. Because it's been a couple of years since I've read it. The Love Hypothesis. So it wasn't really a comedy per se, but it was like a contemporary romance type book. It's about this this PhD candidate. So she's trying to get her doctorates, and she has she's single. Her friend is dating her ex. And she told her friend that she was fine with it and that she was dating other people herself. And in reality, she wasn't dating anybody. She was just alone. Right. And so to avoid, she didn't want her friend to feel bad for her and feel guilty for taking her ex and dating her ex. So when she tells her friend that she's off on a date somewhere, but in reality, she went to the lab, and she randomly, like, she sees her friend coming down this hallway. And so spur of the moment, she just kisses her professor. And it just spurs this whole, and I won't tell you the details, but like in case you eventually want to read it, but it is a cute story. There's some things that I'm like, I want to know, like, she was researching about a particular topic, and I'm like, I want to know about her research. Did she like, did that end like, did her research get like, you know, I was like, that's what I want to know. I want to know about her research. It didn't really tell me what happened to the research, and I'm like, that's what I want to know about. But yeah, I've read a contemporary romance. I have to be in the mood for that, and I'm not always in the mood for that.
Kind of my thing is like, I'm in the mood for some gritty, like, dark romantic-y kind of stuff. And again, it doesn't help that like the anticipation of Onyx Storm is getting me like, you know, into that, and then coming from Carissa Broadbent and kind of like being ready for like the third book and wanting to read that one and stuff is kind of a lot of it too, and then not having a lot of time to read. And at any given moment, my head is also thinking Survivor, because I'm also actively writing new plot lines in that, so my head is thinking, you know, whatever genre that book would be considered, fantasy, epic fantasy. I literally counted, I have 15 character perspectives right now in the book. 15 to balance right now, so a lot of different. Which, to be fair,
it's inspired by like the Survivor show type deal. So it's like I could totally see that. Well, like if you think about the TV show, it flips between like several different players. So it's like in a book, you have several different characters to go back and forth through. So yeah, I could see how
lots of notes.
Well, and I could see how like editing it, you would have to make sure I could even see how you would need to like insert more dialogue or more descriptions or more personality for certain people to help them stand out, so it doesn't get confusing from person to person. So I could totally see that, like, it's literally like writing. It's like you're writing it while you're editing it. So I totally get that.
Yeah, there's like 30 characters total, like side characters. I only go to like about 15 perspectives as of last time I counted out of the 30. And so there's only like 30 people go in, only 2 people are going to make it out alive. That's kind of the blurb. It's not really a spoiler.
Yeah.
And
no,
so
I get
I'm
that.
trying to work on adding more character perspectives so that the 2 that make it aren't as obvious to readers. And so kind of building up, like you said, building up all the side characters. And now I have the problem where I'm really in love with the 2 the particular side characters I'm kind of building up right now. And I like them more than my original ones. So it's a problem because I only have 2 people coming out of this book alive, so that's the interesting thing. But I mean,
that's where it's just that's where you're gonna have angst. Like, you're just gonna have angst because if you make the readers fall in love with these side characters, like Liam, and then you just killed them off, like, it's gonna cause like angst and just So I think it'd be I mean, make them fall in love with them,
for sure. That's what I'm working on. I mean, the fact that I joke about it, but like, it also is kind of reassuring to me, the fact that I do have fallen in love with them so much when I was not expecting to, indicates that more than likely readers will too. So I'm interested to see Heather. Ironically, I'm reading her book and I'm editing her book, the book that she edited for me right now. So I'm interested to see what her thoughts are going to be when she edits the second round. But I'm on chapter 9 out of 24.
Ooh,
so
there you go. A decent chunk of the way through. So
50K. I don't know. It's like 120, 130 somewhere. I think somewhere in there, in that range right now. So
cool.
Probably not as long as Kingdom of Ash, but we're getting there. Depending on how much more I got to add. Yeah. But and then also I get in these Bible moods where I want to either, because I'm reading the Bible through in a year, so I'm reading through, which I guess that would count as a book read when I finish it at the end of the year. But I'm in like Genesis, so it's a lot of like the older Bible stories, and so my brain gets in that mood where I want to watch Bible movies, of those, because I have several good ones. And so I rewatched my favorite Samson movie. Like, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but Samson and Joseph, 2 favorite Bible stories. When I get in those moods, I will watch every single Samson movie that has ever been put out and every single Joseph movie that's ever been put out. Like, my Samson moods or my Joseph moods go hard. Like, it's crazy. So I was also wanting to watch Samson the other night. And
Samson was one of Dad's favorites. Was hit growing up. That was Dad's favorite. Yeah, that's why Dad lifted weights for so long, because of this Samson story.
That's so cool.
He talks about David and Paul a lot now, though. So I think his favorites have kind of shifted a little bit.
I can see that. Can I just say, I want a TV show about David's life? Like, can we get a Bible version of a Game of Thrones style show about David's life, but from a Christian perspective that's also like clean, like following the Bible and David's story?
I don't know. David's story would get kind of gritty, like. Yeah, it would get gritty. So I don't know if you could
that kind of treatment. But like,
I don't know if it could be completely clean. Like it could fade out for like. A
lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the spicy.
Yeah.
The Bathsheba.
Yeah. The whole Bathsheba situation.
The whole Bathsheba thing.
Yeah. That whole thing.
I mean, Solomon. You want to talk about spice? Solomon had 700 wives.
Oh my God. How would he even keep? Can you imagine anniversaries? Can you imagine anniversary gifts for 700 spouses? Can you imagine? Like
one, if you tried to schedule them out, one date night per night, you'd still have 700 days before you circled back around.
It would be over 2 years before you could go on a date. It's like, oh yes, see you in 2.5 years.
Wife number 1. So what's changed in the last 2 years since we had our night together, our date night?
So where were we 2.5 years ago?
Oh my gosh. It's just insane.
My blanket's falling down. That's that time of the evening where I've shimmied in my chair enough. My chair does this thing now where slowly I will lower down. I will go down slowly to the point where I am almost on the ground, and when I stand up, my whole body cracks and pops because I'm so hunched.
Oh my gosh.
My chair it slowly lowers itself, and then I have to go here, and I have to see, that's at the bottom. I wasn't too far away from it, and then I have to raise myself back up again, and then I'm see, I'm back. As I'm like, my chair has slowly lowering itself further and further down as we've been talking, and I'm like, I feel closer to the ground than I was.
That's funny. Gosh. I know on the couch I have to lay back against it to make my neck comfy because I have a lot of neck pain.
Yeah.
And so I'll like lay back, and like if I'm wearing a hoodie, the hood will rest here, and it'll make my neck ache because it pushes forward. So I literally put my hood up if I'm wearing my hoodie, and I look like I'm just like bundled up.
You look all emo. He's like all emo sitting in the just from like the head from like a portrait emo mode. It would look almost like emo, and then from like then you zoom out and you see all the blankets, and it's like, no, you're just cozy.
You're just cozy. Yeah.
All right.
Well, this has been interesting.
We finished up around like 55, and we've just been yapping for about 10 to 15 minutes. So
Yep. So how are you guys doing? How are your reading going? Yeah. How's your reading going? What are you reading?
My gosh.
I did pick up the parallel of how we were both reading Chris Abrabant, and now we've both drifted to more like books, fantasy books about teens and like YA, younger books. Yeah. Like, how does that happen? Like, I don't.
We're cousins. Our brains are just hot wired to think similarly because we share DNA. So that's just how it works.
That's how it works.
That's why our personalities get too similar sometimes, and then we just kind of go off at each other. Yeah. That just happens with cousins. It just So it's okay.
It does.
Trying to think of anything else I want to talk about. Oh, there was another book that I think I forgot to mention on that. I have another book that's called. I forget what it's called, but I got it at Target, and I knew when we did our book haul in January, I knew I was missing one. I was like, I had one more. I was like, there's more books than this. And I saw it on my bookshelf the other day. But, yeah.
Oh. What book was that?
I forget. Hold on.
Oh. I thought it was When the Moon Hatched.
Okay, ignore the fact that my pants don't match my shirt, kind of. I guess there's a little bit of red-ish, but I have comfy pants on, so don't judge.
I do, too. I have literally black, fuzzy cats.
Yeah. Okay.
She will be back in a moment. But yeah, how are you guys doing with your TBR list for the month? Let us know in the comments.
Were you talking about me?
I was talking to keep the audience entertained. Yes, okay. I can hear you.
Okay, I was going to say, were you talking about me?
It's this one. I was just like, that, yeah.
I forgot. I don't think, did I mention this on our TBR? I don't think I did.
No, you had When the Moon Hatched.
It's called
because I bought that one.
It's called Where the Library Hides, and it's essentially Inez Oliveira travels across the world to Egypt. Like ancient Egypt is my favorite ancient civilization, by the way. That's like my favorite, like the favorite.
Yep.
Top tier. Anyway,
it's definitely.
She travels across the world to Egypt seeking answers about her parents' recent and mysterious deaths, but all her searching led her down a perilous road filled with heartaches, betrayal, and a dangerous magic that pulls her deep into the past. When Tio Ricardo issues an ultimatum about her inheritance, she's left with only one option to consider: marriage to Whiteford Hayes. And it kind of continues on after that. So it's kind of like with her heart on the line, Inez might have to bind her fate to the one person whose secret plans could ruin her.
It does sound good. I remember we talked about that in the book haul. We picked it up, so that's on mine too.
Oh, is it on yours? It's like An Impossible Love and Enchanted Legacy.
Since we're talking about books that we're kind of like that are on our future TBR list or our current ones, I actually saw a TikTok that was, Instagram. Mine is Instagram. I've been on Instagram, and it had like Resand, and it had that, the Resand song on Instagram or TikTok that's like it's not really rap, it's not really like R&B, but it's like this really kind of dark sounding song that like has Resand art. You know what I'm talking about?
I gotcha.
That is Resand's kind of theme at this point. It did that, but it had it back and forth between Resand and another guy, and the other guy looked pretty cool. He had tattoos, and it was like really sexy, and he had an R name. And at the end of it, or I read the caption or something, somehow I realized who the other guy was, and it was the guy from Crescent City.
Ooh,
and so now my brain is really wanting to read Crescent City because I want to know about this guy who everyone loves, like Resand. And then you have
I would argue
that it's like rumored to be like Resand, and I'm like, I need to read some of these books with like all these men.
There's a guy in Throne of Glass that I could argue that's Resandish.
Yeah, I
there's
saw
several. There's a couple.
TikTok I made. There was this guy Rowan that kept popping up that I'm like, is from Throne of Glass, but I don't know who he is or anything because I got stuck with reading Dorian and Kale in Throne of Glass. So it's like, where the heck is Rowan? I know he's there somewhere, sometime,
Rowan
with some alien woman who I think is actually the main chick, but I don't know.
Rowan.
I could be way off. I'm gonna laugh if I'm like way off.
Rowan is.
Is he
fine?
We need to do a book boyfriend, a romantasy book boyfriend ranking sometime.
Yeah.
Where we rank Resand, Azrael, Cassian, Rain. Let's see. We have Xaden.
We could do it with
Rowan,
just with.
And I get around to reading him.
Like we could honestly do it just with Throne of Glass. There's that many guys. Like we could do a whole tier list of just Throne of Glass guys.
Throne of Glass Akatar.
You only know you've met 2. There's like 5 or 6 other guys that you will meet later on in the series. It's like there are so many guys.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I love it.
Okay, we've yapped for another 6 minutes. Okay, so.
All right.
Let us know how your reading is going. Or if you want to make random comments about anything we've said in the past hour and 16 minutes, then go for it. And
who's your favorite book boyfriend?
Who's
your favorite book man?
With the looming possibility of TikTok being banned, and you want somewhere to chat about reading, we do have a Discord. I need to check. Remind me to check after the stream as if the link still works. But in the description of this video, and it's also in a link on the main YouTube, on our main profile channel on YouTube. But it will send you a link to our Discord where you can join the Discord. You do have to kind of accept some of the rules. There are some rules you have to read through, but that's with every Discord server. So,
part of the course.
Yeah, so. If you need a calm, chill place to just chat, you can join that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because TikTok's gonna be gone on the 19th.
Yep.
And then Onyx Storm comes out the 21st. And that's what a lot of people are like. Like, where are we going to go talk to?
Where are we going to talk about?
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, a lot of the people that I follow on TikTok, I already follow on Instagram. And I get that the algorithm's not the same for Instagram, and a lot of people don't like it. But it's like, I've spent so long on Instagram that I've kind of tailored the videos that I see to what I like to see. So it's like, it takes Instagram. Instagram is similar to TikTok in that sense, but it takes it longer to figure out what you like. To be fair though, I don't get nearly as many. I don't get as many ads though.
Will not. Yeah, my main Instagram feed is like authors, but like authors that I don't know or care about and stuff. But if I go to the search feature, it'll like pop up with all kinds of ACOTAR stuff, and it's totally catered to like everything I actually want to find.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I don't watch TikTok.
It's different.
Either, so.
It's. I would have to give it that. Instagram is very different than TikTok in that sense, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I'll save stuff on Instagram to chat here, and I'll save stuff on TikTok to talk about here. But it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've recently added a YouTube one because I watch a lot of YouTube shorts. So
yeah,
Facebook.
I don't watch YouTube shorts as much just because if I'm watching a video on YouTube and I save it and I go back in my history to try to find it later, it shows all of the shorts that I've watched in my browser history. So I'm like,
funny.
Yeah, it shows where I'll have like a little section, and it will just have all the shorts just in this little thing where you can just swipe through all the shorts that you watched. So I guess if you saw something that you liked, I guess it would be easier to find.
I created a playlist for videos that are like us for this, and made it set to private, and then I save anything I find on there. But you can't save shorts on YouTube. I don't think, or at least I don't know.
Yeah,
or wait,
no,
yes,
I don't
you
think.
can. I don't know. It's
You can
really complicated.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. I don't know. You can save it to a playlist, but you just have to make the playlist private, I think.
Yeah. So,
or like I'll save it to watch later. So that's what I like. If I see a video that I want to watch on YouTube, I'll just save it to watch later.
I have like no joke 8,000 videos or more on my watch later list because I just do that and forget to go back and watch them.
Did you watch the storyteller guy with the Skyrim videos that are doing like the storyteller mystery style things?
Yeah, I started. Yeah, I watched.
Which one did you watch?
One of that. I don't. Oh, which one? I started to watch one of them and got bored and shut it off about like 10 minutes into it. I don't remember which one it was though.
Yeah.
Which one?
They're good though. I like.
It's been like the day after we had talked about that, so it's been a couple days.
Gotcha.
We also talked for another 4 minutes. Not that anybody's timing.
We did. Okay. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Talk to you later.